Hello, welcome to this week's reading vlog. I read this many books this week, and without much further ado, let's get into it. Alright, let's talk about some books. So, I read Cat Lady by Dawn Porter. So this is a book about a woman who has a cat, is married. Bro, I don't even know how to talk about this book. I am stunned. Okay, so I was thinking, okay, it's gonna be a book about a woman who loves a cat. I think this woman has a very codependent relationship with a cat, and a lot of the time it like borders on ick. It borders on the ick. So there were multiple times I almost put this down. The main character, Mia, she's not a very nice person. In the beginning, she's sort of like, look, she's surrounded by assholes. I get it, like assholes exist, but drugging people without their consent, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm behind this chick. That was already like a red flag. And then she just sort of just goes into incredible detail about everything she does in her life. Like you will sit there and she will tell you exactly how she makes a sandwich, and she will discuss in length how she uses lube during sex. Like there's a lot of information here that nobody wanted, nobody asked for. The point where I first almost DNF'd this was when she started musing about putting food products on her body to get her cat to lick her there. And she talked about how in the past she was sure that humans would have like put spreads on their genitalia and then gotten their animals to lick them there, because who's it hurting? It's a win-win scenario, right? Like the animal's getting fed, and that you can't make an animal do what it doesn't want to do, and the human's getting pleasure from it. And I'm like, no. I was like, I don't think I should read anymore, but I don't know why I kept giving it a go. I think it's just the writing is really easy to read. But yeah, I kept reading until you get to sort of a point where it goes into like another section of the book, and it was called like the career woman section. So I thought, okay, part 2, career woman. And it was at this point, I'm like, you know what, I'm not loving this and I'm not really resonating with this character at all. And I thought I'd go on Goodreads and read some reviews. They mentioned that there's some bad things that happen to animals, and then I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm 100% out. I'm glad I did not get to that point. There is one thing that I cannot stand in a book, and it's either animal cruelty or animal death. It just really viscerally upsets me, and I would rather not consume that whatsoever. So that's when I decided to DNF this. This is not the representation cat ladies want. Thank you. The next book I read was 3 Kisses, 1 Midnight. So this was sort of about 3 friends and this party where one of the friends had a grandmother who was a witch, and she had a love spell. So they all make this love potion, and they're going to, I guess, consume it on this night, and all 3 of them will have their kisses. So the book is split into 3 parts with 1 character per book. I read the first character, Honor and Byron and Alexander the Great Looking's story. It was very sweet. It's very YA. It's YA enough that it was innocent enough that I was okay reading it. I was a bit worried for a second there. I thought, oh, are these teenagers gonna have sex? Still, that being said, yeah, I decided to DNF it after the first book because it's just too young for me. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's very sweet. It's very charming. Like I said, it's very innocent and fun and lighthearted. So if you are a teenager, I think you would like this book. It's just, yeah, for me, it's too young, and that's why I DNF'd that one. And then I started The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So I'm going to say after 50%, I did DNF it, and it's me, it's not you. I don't like academia books. I've just come to realize that any book that is mostly set at a school, in a university, and they're discussing the theories that they're learning, I just check out. I hated all of my academia years. I did not like school. I did not like university. I love learning. I just don't like those settings. They just really jar me, and I don't want to read books about them. I get so bored. It's like I fell asleep during my lectures. I don't want to fall asleep during a fake lecture in a book. So in terms of the book itself, like, yeah, the writing was good. It's definitely more entertaining than Babel. It does veer more, like the book started off academic, and then it really veered into let's talk about how to kill some people. It's very drawn out. It is so drawn out. So I read half of it, which was like 300 pages, and they're still talking about like you know, hypothetically, or not hypothetically, but the plans to like murder someone. And I just felt like, are we still in the talking stage? Like, can something happen? This is nuts. So it would be like very, very boring, and then some really random full-on event happens, and then talk about it, and then another random event happens and talk about it. So there was a lot of talking, less doing, and I did find the main character really dull and boring. I just didn't really connect to it. Same, like my favorite character in this it was leaning towards Henry. Henry was the only one that I was really intrigued by, and I wish there was more of him. I did not care for any of the other characters whatsoever. Like I said, I think this is a it's me, it's not you situation, and I didn't want to continue reading it because I don't want to keep reading it and then just give it like a 3 or a 2 just because I didn't like the subject matter or the themes. And that is what I'm doing these days. I am really making sure that I'm being very heavy on the DNFing. It's like, if I know that I'm just going to end up giving this a bad star because I'm not the intended audience, it's not my genre, it's not my jam, I'm going to DNF it because I'd rather not bomb someone's rating with a low score. So that was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And I had I pushed through it way too much. I really struggled to get to that 50%, and getting to the point where when it was time to read, I was not wanting to pick it up. And I'm like, I'm going to put myself in a book slump by doing this. And that is not good, Chanel. So you really do need to stop. Just because everyone else loves this, and it is like this famous piece of literature now, and you've seen so many people rave about it, does not mean that you have to force yourself if it's not flowing, if it's not getting you excited, and it's not a fun time. Don't do it. Don't do it. So yeah, this was a big learning experience. I really wish I hadn't gone to 50%. I could have spent that time reading a different book that brought a smile to my face, but that's what I mean. It's you live, you learn. And then we have the Kiss Quotient. So I'm just gonna move this out. I hate seeing stuff in the background. I gave this 3.75 stars because it's entertaining. Sometimes, man, you just want books that are a good time and you get absorbed in. And it doesn't mean the writing's great, doesn't mean the plot is great, doesn't mean the characters are great, but it's got some chemistry that keeps you reading and keeps you entertained. And this was that for me. I did love getting some neurodivergent rep. That was great to see. I did see a lot of myself in this character, but the escort angle wasn't for me because I'm also like demi, so I just cannot do the sex without deep emotional attachment there. And I just found it odd that she went straight to escort as how to learn about sex. I'm like, girl, books exist. Porn exists. There are many other ways you could have, like ways that I did the same thing before I had sex. I was so anxious about it. And it's one of those things, I guess neurodivergent, you just want to prepare yourself as much as possible. And I'm like, I need to learn. I need to consume as much as I can so I know what I'm getting myself into and I don't have a freak out when it happens. But you know, of course you still do because it's still very full on experience. Yeah, I just thought, why would she go straight to escort? And she did. I'm like, that's way more terrifying. Like, she'd already had all these horrible experiences with sex where she had sex with people that she didn't care about, that didn't care about her. That was really upsetting to read. In the end, I was rooting for the characters to get together. I thought it was kind of cute, it was sweet, there was some totally unnecessary drama, but overall I did enjoy it. The sex scenes were pretty good. I needed something, you know, not deep. At that point, I'd had DNF after DNF, and when that happens, like, it's very scary because I think I'm headed to a book slump. I just need something just very light and fizzy and entertaining, and this was that for me. So for that, I'm thankful. Am I going to read more by the author? No. Yeah, I need, like, look, I'm glad this book, I almost put it down when the escort angle came up and then she met with me straight away. I thought, oh my God, if they have sex straight away, it's not for me. I can't do it. I can't do sex straight out the gate. And I was really glad that they didn't, but it's not a slow burn. I would not call this slow burn at all, but at least it wasn't straight to banging. I was a bit like, I'm gonna have to put this down, but then it was slow enough that I kept reading. So yeah, that was the Kiss Quotient. And then I read Guns of the Dawn. Okay, so this book is definitely not something I have normally read before. Think of like Jane Austen era ladies during wartime. And their country is warring against a neighboring country, and the king sort of there's a little bit of magic in this, but not a lot. I won't even call this like real fantasy. The king does have some powers in that he can bestow his warlocks with the power to like create fire, okay? So he's got his little like special king's team there. But they're warring with a neighboring country and the king just starts burning through his citizens. So he ends up having to conscript men, and then he conscripts men as young as 15. And the main protagonist, Emily, her brother, is conscripted at 15 years old to go to war. And then they run out of those, so they conscript the women. And Emily decides to go from her household. She decides to volunteer out of her sister, and she gets thrown into it. And so the majority of the book, the meat of this book, is in an active war situation. So you were just there in the trenches, in the battles, and that's not normally something I like. It's just constant fighting and strategy and wartime shenanigans. So it is very heavy on that, but I just kept reading because I wanted to find out how it ended. So this was a book that did keep me up. I thought I'll definitely put it down. I'm not that interested in war, but then I'm like, I just need to find out what happens. I just need to find out who wins. In this book, there are 2 love interests. So this book could have been a 4.5 star for me. The ending is what bottomed it down to 3. My God, the ending of this book. I'm like, what in the freaking hell, man? What was that? It just ends rapidly. First of all, just like boom, it ends. And what happens in the end is so frustrating to me. It makes no sense. So there are 2 love interests. I like one way more than the other. The other one doesn't even make sense. Hello, Editing Chanel here. I realized I kind of went on a spoilery rant. It was a little spoilery. I got a little emotional. So I'm going to just say, if you don't want any hints at all about this book, skip to the next part. I'm just going to label this spoilery. So yeah, sorry guys. Okay, the other one is like this cowardly man, conniving, manipulative, could have really helped their family, chose not to, but then chose to extend that help only to Emily because he's got the hots for Emily. And at that point, when she realized he could have extended that help to the other members of her family, I was livid. I was like, you better not like have anything to do with this cretin. But no, she goes to war and she decides to start a pen pal relationship with him. Makes no sense because he's got another love interest who's in the wartime with her, who seems fantastic personally compared to the other douche who's actually trying to actively help her. The other guy does the bare minimum. He does the least, and then you got a guy doing the most. And when she ends up sort of like choosing the least, out of no logic, the logic was so skewed. It's like, I've done this thing which I think the other guy will be angry at me for, and therefore I cannot be with him anymore, so I'm going to choose you. I'm like, talk to him first. Go and have a conversation like, hey, I did this thing that subsequently saved your life, but I think you're going to be angry about what the price was. But how do you feel about that? Do you still love me? Do you still want to be together or not? Ask him first. But no, she's just like, I don't think he's going to be chill with it, so I'm just going to choose you. Oh my God, so much rage, guys. Like I just felt like I got punched in the chest, and I sat up in bed. It was like midnight, and I'm like, what? In what reality? In what reality? Why? Because also the family, her sisters now hate sniveling man because like this guy has been a thorn in their side and their father's side. Like there's history, bad history there. They hate him. Love the other dude, upstanding citizen and, you know, really good guy. But no, and then it just ends. It just ends. That's all she just says to him, the weasel man, like, I guess I'm choosing you. And that's it. The book ends. I'm just like, I don't understand. It was just so bizarre to me. And it just, after going through all of those chapters of like this war and this battle and the killing and the almost rapes and everything else, after everything we went through together, that's how you're going to do at the end. That's how you're going to end this. Like, did no one read this and go like, seems a bit abrupt and unrealistic, and I don't think it's going to satisfy many people. I want to know, is anybody shipping the Weasel Man? Is anybody shipping the Weasel Man? Because this Emily chick, and by the way, like during this entire book, I pictured her as Emily Blunt in the Tom Cruise movie because this is how badass she was. Like, she was amazing, and it wasn't unbelievable. It wasn't like, oh, she's gone from 0 skills to like lieutenant. no, like she had some basic gun skills before, and she had that fight and she had that determination. And I believe that she was, you know, intelligent enough with her strategy and everything else that she would probably be decent in the war. So you buy her move up the ranks and her, you know, badassery. You totally buy it. So it was just very disappointing that that's how she's choosing to end her story. You're tying yourself to that. Okay, Emily. Okay, maybe you've got some war trauma, because I don't think you would have made that choice otherwise. So I don't know. I've given it 3 because of that, and that it hurts me. It hurts me to do that, but like it enraged me so much. And in my head, to be able to live in this world, I'm just going to pretend that she decides, you know, maybe I'll go and talk to this other dude first and just let him know what's happened, and then see where we stand before I throw my chips in with this dick. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to pretend that she's gone to the other dude and he's been like, you know what? I understand why you did what you did, and it's okay. I can get past it. I really love you. You know, we survived years of war together. Like, we can overcome this. We can do it. And I'm going to pretend that's how it ended, because I cannot continue to exist with that ending. I just cannot. So yeah, that was that one, guys. Oh my God. Why? Let's have a look at the last book I read this week, which is The Parent's Guide to Managing Anxiety in Children with Autism by Rachel Dundon. I was trying to find one that was very simple, straightforward, easy to read, easy to digest, helpful, that gives you techniques that you can use immediately, because I was trying to find a book to give to my ex-husband to help him understand our children and to give him some strategies on how to assist them coping with their anxiety, because they're neurodivergent children. So, and this one fit the bill. This is, like I said, very easy, simple, straightforward, basic, to the point. It has hypotheticals, hello Sylvie, of, you know, this is Susie, she's 8, these are her issues, this is how she's reacting to this sort of situation, here's what you can do to help. So, like I said, this is no frills, but it is very quick to grasp and very useful to read, and I'm hoping this one helps him with the kids. So I've given it 4 stars because, like I said, it does the job, and I think it's great for those who don't really want to read in depth and don't want to be overloaded with science and psychology, and just sort of want, like, hey, when my kid is melting down over this, what do I do? So that's what I recommend. Sylvie, it's the camera, you want to say hello? So now onto my TBR. I've decided to switch to a monthly TBR. I just think it's easier that way and allows me to mood read more. So I'm going to put some books up here of what I think might read next month. In terms of the selection process, how I'm selecting them, I really want to whittle my TBR down, which I've been saying for ages, but I just keep adding to that bitch. There's all these new releases and I'm like, yes, I would like to read that when it comes out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the bottom, as in start from the oldest entries and then work my way up to the newest, because I think to a lot of those books that I maybe put on 2 years ago, the reason I haven't read them is because they haven't come into my library. And as you know by now, I don't just go out and buy books that I haven't read. I only buy books that I have read and that are 5-star reads that I want to read over and over and over again. So I'm going to, yeah, if the books still aren't at the library, then I'm just going to delete them from my TBR, because there's just so many books these days that are always coming in, and there's no point still holding out for something from like 3 years ago. Cats everywhere, man. I'm going to be reading, obviously, the 2 books for my Wild Ones book club for next month, and at the end of next month I'll put up another poll for April's selections. But that's everything for this week. I hope that wherever you are having an extraordinary morning, afternoon or evening, and as always, stay wild, star child.